So that's why I find a lot of times companies will get things done. They will improve stuff. They will add the next shiny object, but they normally don't have this holistic approach internally on their own. And that's just the inevitability that the company as it is relying on resources that have other full-time jobs and other focuses where they're not able to really see the whole journey and how do you collectively make that impression. And so it's always so great to have companies and people like you in the space that really talk about it from a perspective of, have you taken all this into account? And more often than not, it's like, oh my gosh, we haven't even started to think about that.
Well, we don't know what we don't know, and everyone has a day job. So everyone to some degree has blinders on, focused on their core area. They may have some peripheral view of what's going on around them, but they don't have that 50,000 foot view, and they don't know the art of the possible. They don't know what's out there that they hadn't thought of yet. And it's difficult for an organization to know where to invest their limited resources. Are we better to try and improve our agent retention, or are we better to invest in this new piece of technology? Now, the technology, frankly, always seems sexier than the people side, but you could make an argument that that especially in the days of the Great Resignation, attrition management, agent retention, customer, agent engagement, employee engagement has never been more important. So, organizations need to understand where they're going to get the best bang for the buck, and that often is going to either be achieved through some kind of an independent benchmarking exercise, like where do they compare to best practice, what's the low-hanging fruit, what's the easy wins, or they're going to look at bringing in somebody to help them do an audit or an assessment. Now, my only caveat there is there's a lot of folks who have the title of consultant who are effectively shilling for somebody else, right? It's like we can do that, and we won't charge you any money for it. But the chances are it's going to end up recommending something that's provided by somebody that's going to give them that consultant stuff, some kind of compensation. So I think it's important that organizations understand who they're dealing with. They may want to go that route because they don't have the money to pay for a consultant, but they have to, they need to do that with their eyes open. That this is not an independent perspective. It may be very good advice, but it's still biased or influenced based on what other financial agreements may be in place. And similarly, they need to know if they're hiring an independent consultant, then they really don't have a horse in the race. They don't have a product to sell. So the only thing that they are selling at that point is their time. So, organizations often will influence their roadmap based on going to conferences or seeing what did company X, X do or company Y do. Sometimes it's just who the CEO golfs with sets the priorities for the organization.
Yeah.
But other times, they're looking at independent benchmarking, things like what are the best practice organizations doing? What's the top 10, top 10 or 15% of all contacts? What do they have in common? What is different? And there are benchmarks out there which you can go and you can, compare yourself to those and get a report which highlights where you can go. And then you can bring in an external consultant who, if nothing else, is going to be the fresh set of eyes, but they're also going to be able to understand and delve into the interrelationship of things that people may not see internally simply because they have those blinders on I mentioned a moment ago. You can't see the forest for the trees when you're in the middle of the forest.